Chiefs face the Bucs and try to get right in Tampa Bay, and it looks like it'll be in Tampa Bay. We're going to go over this game, our predictions, and everything you need to know on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is nearly game day. Welcome to the preview show. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're brought to you by BriteCo. It is the jewelry and watch insurance that you need to have. It's comprehensive, fast, and affordable jewelry insurance for just $5 a month. Go check it out at brite.co/lockedon. Today, we got to talk about the weather, the quarterbacks, how they're going to rebound from this drastic game last week, and drastic's about the best I could put it. We're going to start today really quickly about where we're lighting up. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, NFL 33, and RGR Football.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. It is another Red Friday. It is always fun to have those. And this is a primetime game with Sunday Night Football. I think that that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Lots to talk about when it comes to this game because you're right. It is going to be played in Tampa Bay. Kind of surprised about that a little bit. But it's a good thing for the city and it's a good thing for that area. You just got to hope that everything else is taken care of down there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite interesting to watch how much.
Thoughts and prayers for Florida. Sorry, that's all I want to say.
I'm with you. I'm totally surprised that this is going to happen because, as I understand, the lingering effects are still going to be felt on Sunday, whether it's rain or just general moisture, groundwater. We've seen some problems with fields this season. The Chiefs have been involved in some of that. Like I am more concerned than normal for the quality of the turf that they're going to play on. So the fact that right now the NFL has come out and said here on Thursday that they are going to play in Tampa Bay, it does narrow your preparation. You understand where you're going and what you're doing. So the logistics side is different. I don't know that it changes anything for the game plan or for the players or how they prepare.
No, I don't think it changes for them. I think it just look at what it's going to mean for the team and really the city. I think that the city is going to have a big impact on how this game is played. And, obviously I don't know exactly how it is down in Tampa Bay right now. I would imagine it's still awfully wet, and it's going to be a question of, I have friends in the Florida area, and some of them didn't have power for quite a long time, and maybe that's not happening in Tampa right now, but still have questions as to how it's going to affect the field and how it's going to affect everything around it and getting to the game and getting, all of that.
Well, and it puts a lot more stress on the organizations of how they're going to prepare. And honestly, the number one story this week is, can Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, maybe EB if you buy all the noise, learn from last week and apply it against an opponent that had your number in the last biggest game that you played? And can you actually rebound from last week? I'm more concerned about rebounding from the flaws that we saw last week than I am about dealing with the weather on that level. I think it's more important.
I agree with that. I think that it's, I talked a lot about in the crossover episode that last week was a big failure on the Chiefs' part, and I just can't see them laying an egg 2 weeks in a row. I agree with you. We've talked about this earlier this week that they did not look prepared for that game. They did not look ready to play the Colts. And in that scenario, you just cannot be in that. You can't be in that situation 2 games in a row. And you definitely can't do it against Tom Brady and a Bucs team that is also struggling right now.
Absolutely. I will say this. From what I'm hearing, practice this week has been very deliberate. It has been more difficult than you would expect for a week 4 matchup. I think that has a lot to do with the eggs that were laid last week. And if that is the case, kudos to Andy Reid. You got to get in somebody's butt because the offense's performance last week was unacceptable for this caliber of talent. There's no way around that. And there's no way to fix that other than take another chance at it in your next ball game and improve yourself. The defense, one defender in particular who used to be in Denver down there in Tampa Bay, likes to use the word dominate about this upcoming matchup. If you're in the Chiefs locker room on the offensive side of the ball, you have to take that to heart and you have to bow up right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and the big key, and one of the things that I talked about in yesterday's crossover was where does Kansas City's offensive line, how does they look this time around against Tampa Bay? Because we saw what happened the last time they played Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. And that was the whole reason that they went and did what they did with the offensive line. So I think that's going to be a big part in this game, is what that offensive line is going to look like, how they're going to play. And I'm really excited to see how far they've come, because they're not going to be the same test, but it'll still be a good test, in my opinion. And I think that is going to play a big role in this game.
Yeah, it has to. And it has to be taken care of. I'm hopeful, but we're going to talk about some of the things that they have to make sure that they lock down coming up here in a little bit. At the end of the day, overall, this team, really happy with what you got out of Spags last week in the defense. Can they continue that? Couple of tough matchups I'm sure we'll talk about in the next segment. But overall, this team has to have the mental toughness to overcome what they did and didn't do last week and turn it around on a weird week in a weird situation. And at least it's the same field that they knew that they were playing in. I don't know if that helps much or not, but this comes down, I think, to the mental side of this game.
And there's going to be a ton of injuries that we got to talk about when it comes to both sides of the ball, or
Yes.
both sides of both teams. Let me re-specify, because there are a ton of injuries that are going to play into this game, and a lot of questions on the Bucs side of how they're going to even have enough wide receivers to play. Obviously, there's practice squad call-ups, and they'll have them, I would imagine, but there are a lot of questions when it comes to their playmakers.
There certainly are. And sometimes you just got to do something, to really make a statement. If you want to make a statement, there's an easy way to do that that's less risky than if you were trying to fly her in a helicopter for a marriage proposal, or you're trying to, circle the globe in a catamaran for your wedding anniversary. I don't know. Whatever craziness that you feel you want to try, don't be that guy that ends up on the internet for a giant fail. Take the time and do what's smart and get some help. BriteCo Jewelry Insurance will make sure that all of that is ready for you for a replacement ring or watch or whatever you're trying to insure. It's super easy. They are the best at this, and you can get covered in 2 minutes from your cell phone. Lickety split, not a problem. All you got to do is go to brite.co/locked on and get your butt covered. That's what you're looking for. Then you can take your chances. And if you happen to fall out of the helicopter or into the drink from the rowboat or whatever you're planning, that's on you, but you'll still have the ring insured. You'll still have that special bracelet ready. If you lose it and the worst happens, get yourself covered with BriteCo at brite.co/locked on. Covering yourself, I think, is probably a good plan for these Kansas City Chiefs. Let's have more than one plan here. Let's not assume that Todd's going to either play too high like he did the last time they met and actually destroy their game plan. This is going back to the source for me. This is the first time that the Chiefs' offensive plan did not account for any ability to adapt to what they didn't already expect. They played the tendencies, and I think they got tunnel vision just like they did last week. The number one thing for me as they come away is the preparation phase in being able to be multiple. If you get too high cover 4, that's different than getting cover 2 man. You got to be able to hit both. If Todd goes back into a cover 3 and has a single high safety, you have to be able to then shift gears, make your play call, make your reads, and get the ball out to attack a different area of the field. It's about being multiple and versatile this week, and that's what I think is the most important thing for this team.
I can't say I disagree with you. I think that if you look at what Bowles has done in the past to Kansas City, it's been variable. He has thrown the kitchen sink at him at times, and I think that they need to be ready for that. And getting ready for that type of defensive game plan is going to be tough because you have to have something in your playbook for just about everything. But this is the fourth game of the regular season. You should have enough in your playbooks from previous weeks to be able to go against all these defenses that he's going to throw at you. And if he has something new and he beats you a down or two, okay, fine. Just try to make sure it's not, the big one of the biggest downs in the game. Put Patrick in a good position, and I think that he has shown that he has the ability to really read defenses well enough to get a pretty good idea as to what is going on and where they're going to be coming from, generally speaking. I'm not going to say it's always the case, but generally speaking, I think he does pretty well.
Yeah.
So for me, you start looking at this game, and I talked about this on the crossover, and I really had to talk about it in this game or in here too. one of the biggest things to me, Chris Jones missed practice on Wednesday. It sounds like it was not injury related from what we were seeing. He was a full participant on Thursday, so it doesn't look like he's going to have any issues going on Thursday. And it was said that he plans on not saying a word to Tom Brady during the game, so there's that too.
Zip it.
But what I will say is you were looking at a completely different interior three offensive line that Tom Brady has been used to the past couple of seasons. I think that's going to play a huge key in this game. There's still a question whether or not Donovan Smith is going to play. If he plays in this game, he's still going to be in a situation where he's got a bad elbow, and it's going to be something to do with pain tolerance, whether or not he can go. This offensive line isn't what Brady is used to, and if they can't put up 20 points, it's going to be a really long day for the Bucs.
Yeah, you are not kidding. And I never thought I'd have to say this to Chris Jones again after his combine performance, but Chris, keep it zipped, okay? Just keep it zipped. That's the way you got to go about this, because Brady's going to get calls that other quarterbacks wouldn't get. And if whatever was said to Matt Ryan was that heinous, you can't even go close to it. So yeah, let's stay under control. But you're right.
But according to what I've seen, they won't even tell the Chiefs what he said, which I have a problem with.
You're not alone. You are by no means alone. I mean,
you cannot call a penalty in that time frame and not give clarification as to what was said and to why it was an issue.
Yeah. Let's let everything out. Let's be transparent for a bit. Oh wait, this is the NFL. That isn't going to happen.
Well, I don't ever expect it to actually make it to the media. That's fine. But if you won't tell the organization, that's a problem. And according to the organization, the NFL will not tell them, and that is a problem.
Yeah, that is huge. In the end, you got to take advantage of whatever you can take advantage of. And as I look at snap counts and what we should expect, Chris Jones has the ultimate matchup in this ball game for the defensive front. Luke Gadecki is a rookie. Very athletic one, a guy that I liked. But a rookie nonetheless and overmatched. And now Hainsey is playing center for them. At least he did last week. If Smith does return, okay, fine. It is, I think, first and foremost, starting at Chris Jones, and anything else you get from, say, George Karlaftis, who probably has the worst matchup here going against Tristan Wirfs, who's clearly the best offensive lineman in Tampa Bay this season. I think you're going to see things slant away from George and towards Chris. And hopefully that helps guys like Dunlap and Clark. Maybe I don't think we're going to see Dana, right?
Well, I don't know about Dana. I mean, it looked like he was trending in the right direction. Maybe Mecole Hardman as well. The question I have when it comes to Karlaftis is I think they're going to move him around, and I think they're going to put him also. I saw times where he was playing in a defensive tackle role, and they had Chris Jones on the left tackle last week against the Colts. That happened a couple of times. I saw it. So if they do that, I think Karlaftis can still have great value to this team, and I don't think that they're going to put him out there on an island against Wirfs all day long by himself, mainly because you're going to want his motor going against a left tackle that is going to be struggling anyway, especially if Smith does play.
Well, and I'll say this to Spags. You can't let up. Spags was all over the place. There was even a rep, one of my favorite ones actually, where Karlaftis was the nose, and it was a 3-man rush plus an outside linebacker. Like that kind of creativeness, that kind of keeping things on your toes and not letting Tom see what he thinks he's seeing, that is key to winning this ball game. Whether it's George on the right or left, doesn't really matter. As long as you can keep Brady off center, and with this offensive line, you should be able to do that.
And take a page from Andy's book. Last week they ran a play, and I don't remember exactly what happened on the play, but the offensive lineman never got set.
Right. Run
something similar on defense. Like make Tom not know what's coming at a time or two. Vary your defense. Tom is great at reading defenses. We all know that. But there are things you can do to confuse him. And one of the biggest things that you can do to piss him off is to give him pressure in the middle gaps. Send blitzes through the middle with Chris Jones still going through the middle. You're going to get home and you're going to create issues.
That's what I'm talking about. Steve, I hope you're listening.
I know you are. I know that's exactly what you're talking about. So, I will say this really quick, though. My secondary matchup that I'm really going to be curious about is who is going to be playing on the Bucs side when it comes to wide receiver. Obviously, Mike Evans is going to be back. He's going to be pissed off because he was suspended. Chris Godwin could be back. Julio Jones could be back. It looks like Rashad Perryman is going to be out. they're really hurting at that wide receiver position. If Godwin can't go and Julio Jones can't go, and you have a lot of questions when you start talking about Godwin in a really sloppy field, do you really want to risk with him coming off that injury, him going out there on that? I get why you would,
Right.
because you feel like you need to win this game because you feel like you should be 3-0. But that's a risk I don't know that they're going to take.
Well, and I'll tell you this too: when you get down the depth chart and you want to try to bring something in, it is Gage that you want to bring in, but that puts him on L'Jarius Sneed for the most part. That's tough matchup. Maybe you got to do
he's on the
something to move
injury
him
report
around.
too.
Then. Is he?
Yeah. I think he's going to play, but he's on the
Right.
injury report too. I mean, all their wide receivers, it looks like, other than Mike Evans, who didn't play last week, are injured. And maybe Scotty Miller.
That's going to be the hard part. I think the easier part is what they do to run the ball. I want to talk about that before we do predictions. We'll do them both right after this. So everybody has been chatting up, at least in fantasy circles, about, playoff Lenny's already here. Okay, that's fine. Tell me, Chris, if you had to guess in, let's say, the most all-encompassing metric, DVOA for defense, where is the Chiefs' defense against the run this season so far?
I don't know.
Number 6.
That doesn't shock me.
They've been playing well, especially last week, against, I think, a back that was more formidable than Fournette is.
Way more formidable. I think Jonathan Taylor's probably top 2 running back.
Agreed.
And honestly, he may be the number 1 running back when it comes to you start looking at injury history and all of that, even though he's injured this week and not practicing, funny enough. But Christian McCaffrey is dynamic, but he looks like he could be missing this week. And he's probably the best running back in the NFL if he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy the past couple of seasons. Taylor has. He's been a bell cow. I still think he's one of the best, if not the best, running back in the NFL. And to hold him to what they held him last week, I was very impressed. I think that shows how far they've come defensively against the run. And one of the things that you talked about going into that game and could play into this game as well is they could bring up Danny Shelton. Mm-hmm. They didn't do it last week. Do they do it this week? Because they are grounding and pounding with Fournette. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talked about on the crossover was how many carries that they've been giving Fournette and how many touches they've been giving Fournette. He is going to be worn out by the end of the year if they continue on the pace that they're on right now.
Yeah. And unlike what we've seen in Indianapolis, where we saw Spags go lighter in the front and really rely on the matchups, the secondary was flying around. We got good performance on that. They might want to go more robust because of the way that Fournette runs. And because when you look at, say, Mason inside next to Wirfs, like you feel like you have better run blockers on that side that can open up some holes on one side of the ball. Maybe Shelton's a better matchup this week. I was a little surprised they didn't use him last week, but hey, what do I care? At the end of the day, it's about a win. So how do they get there? How do they take all of this in, the collapse last week, all the travel, the whole 9 yards? How do they get to a win, and what do you think happens?
So I want to specify this because I think people are going a little overboard in a way, and I want to say this because I think that the Chargers had a fantastic defensive game plan for Kansas City. I don't think that the offense played bad against the Chargers. I think that the Chargers are a tough matchup. They're a divisional opponent, and they have a lot of really good pieces. Obviously, they're not going to have Bosa for a couple of months. We just found that out. They lost Rashawn Slater as well, so we'll see how that ends up with their season. But where I'm going with that is, in my mind, I don't think the Chiefs' offense laid 2 eggs in a row. I do think that they didn't play well last week. I will agree with you there, but I don't think that the offense is really that big of a problem necessarily when you look at it overall. I think that if they get back to what they did week 1 and part of week 2, because I think that there were things that they did well in week 2, I think that they can win this game. And I think that maybe it's not going to be as close as we would think it was, or it should be, because you look at what Tampa Bay has been doing. And I'm sorry, Green Bay's defense is not great. And to be held to 12 points by Green Bay's defense, that is questionable at best. And yes, I know you're missing Mike Evans, and I know you have a lot of injuries at wide receiver. But Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Is he Tom Brady of old, or is he starting to get to a point where you have to question whether or not he's going to be a guy that can carry a team? I don't like questioning Brady, but at this point, I don't know that you have much of a choice.
Yeah, why not? If you're on the field, you're able to be questioned.
All right, and I still think I'm going with what I said last night on the crossover, which was 27-20 Kansas City.
Okay. Well, that's going to require some shifting on my part because that's exactly what I predicted on RGR yesterday. So let me overthink this a little bit.
No, you can go to the same score. We've never done that before.
No, we never have, and I'm not doing it now. I just refuse. A little bit sloppier. A team, especially on the Tampa side, that needs to run the ball well. Chiefs aren't going to run the ball well. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Vita Vea is still manning the middle. Yes, there's a gap on the other side, a defensive tackle. Maybe you can get some run with Creed and Trey. Maybe.
I just want to say this really quick. I didn't mention this, and I think we should have mentioned this earlier. If I'm Kansas City, if the field is not good, I'm not kicking Butker in this game. I'll take my risk. I'll take my chances with the other kicker and call him up from the practice squad, and you get with him for this game. I won't risk it. I don't think it's worth it.
I don't blame you at all. Given all those things, I would say that really what you need to do is what we talked about before, and given the bounce back and what the passing game didn't do last week. Like I said earlier, they have to be able to attack multiple shells. They're going to get a covered shell. Todd Bowles isn't going to take any chances. He saw it work too much. I don't know that it's going to be too high. I don't know that it's going to be cover 4. You might see some cloud where you have a half field and 2 guys in quarters on the other side. You might see some Hingle high 3. I don't know. But you have to be able to attack them all, and you have to be able to do it on the fly. I need more kills of bad routes out of Patrick Mahomes. I haven't heard enough. Hey, that's not going to work. I've recognized it. We got to change because there are opportunities on this defense. I don't think Davis is playing particularly great. I think you can take advantage of him there. Who does that? I don't know. I don't care. But I will say this. You need more opportunities. That includes 2 guys that didn't play much last week. And the guy that I think has the most advantage here, especially because they're going to rough up Travis, and that their athletic linebackers are going to try to do that. So that's going to leave some gap. Sky Moore has to be a big part of this game plan, in my opinion. I think he has to trail off of the routes that Travis runs because they can't ignore Travis. There's no way that they can do it. You have to push him a little bit. And quite frankly, I'd love to see some 12 where Jody's lining up close to Travis and can get lost in some of that confusion as well. I think those are 2 guys that have to be targeted. I think the Chiefs will win this, but it'll be, say, 28-23.
Fair enough. Way to change your score. I cannot agree with you more. I think Sky Moore is the guy that they need to get involved. And I really wonder if they had a game plan to try to get him involved last week in the first 2 series, just completely they got in his head. And I honestly think that it just looked like they were not going to use him in that scenario. It does sound like they're going to stick with Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco, and for better or for worse. So we'll see if that pans out for Kansas City on special teams. Dave Tobe took full responsibility for the fake. And that's what you love hearing from your coaches. So we'll see. I got to be hopeful that Moore is going to have a better game as a punt returner, and Pacheco will have a better game as a returner. But part of that's also on blocking.
True.
So
let's just catch the ball first. I'll worry about blocking after that. Just catch the ball. Okay.
Yep.
All right, folks. We'd like to know what you think. What's your prediction? Leave it in the YouTube comments. Throw it in the Spotify reviews. Hit us at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter. You can also find us at Chiefs Corner for Chris and at Ryan Tracy NFL for me. There's a lot going on. Make sure you check out everything. Any breaking news, any change of venue, we will let you know. We will be live post game. I know it's going to be late, but Matt's going to be available. We will run it down for you, hopefully after a Chiefs victory, but I think you guys are pretty optimistic. Happy Red Friday. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you post game.